Hey all, welcome to Circle of Tone, and today you might notice that I don't have a guitar in my lap for a change, so it's just going to be some information that I think a lot of you, there's a lot of confusion going around about power supplies and pedal boards and, you know, daisy chaining and ground lifts and there's isolated outputs and all things like that. And searching the web, there really isn't any decent videos on this subject. So I thought I had all my stuff. I've got guests coming in a couple of days' time, so I have to like push some of the guitar stuff out of my living space for for a few days. So all my power supplies, all my pedals are in a box, just right down by there. So I thought I'll pull them out and I'll explain what's going on with power supplies and why you should care about it, or not. You know, sometimes it's just rock and roll. If it buzzes, it buzzes. You know, just drown it out. So where do I start? I've got a lot of stuff on this table for a demo, and I'll cut to a video soon of one which I did, which was perfect. I set it up. I didn't know it was gonna. We'll get to it later on. So stay tuned for that. So what type of power supplies do we have? And why do people say that you should have isolated power? Because I didn't believe that at first. What is isolated power? Basically, there is actually a transformer inside an isolated power supply. And basically what that does, for instance, if it's isolated, if one of these outputs craps out on you, all the other ones will still work and your pedals will still function. So then, instead of, if you had a daisy chain, it would knock all of them out. So then you'd have to, imagine you're in a gig and you have a daisy chain style power supply like the one spot. If one of those goes out, all of your pedals have gone blank. And now you have 8 inputs you've got to get out, and then somehow you're not going to do it. With isolated power, as long as the entire thing doesn't blow up, you know, the transformer, and it's more robust, you know, the chances are a light surge in a club or whatever isn't going to knock it out, you know. But yeah, and all you have to do is swap one pedal out. Maybe if the pedal is actually true bypass, even if the effect doesn't work, sometimes the whole pedal board will work. It's just the effect won't work. So that's something else to consider as well. I'm just going to go through a lot of scenarios which might be helpful for you if you do rely on pedal boards. So like I say, some true bypass don't need power. It just, you know, your pedal will it'll just go through it as if it's a cable. So and speaking of cables, I'll just put up a quick picture of why you should plan your board and not just put pedals, you know, next to each other. I'm a big fan of buying pedal types if you have a pedal board live. The reason being, they're on the same height. The input jacks are usually the same height if they're the same brand. And then all you have to do is get a coupler. There's a picture right here. And there won't be any trouble with wear and tear. As long as it doesn't bend and go up in the air and down so that you don't put stress on the jacks, then it's fine. And that's actually a tonal plus as well, because I've actually tested this. I've tested good quality jumper cables, flexible jumper cables, up against these pretty cheap, you know, just Nutric, I don't know what they're actually called. I just call them couplers. And yeah, I strung about 10 pedals together, and the tone suck you get from you know, putting 10 cables in the mix is pretty significant. So, you know, sometimes, you know, true bypass doesn't matter if your cable kind of sucks. So that's another tip. If you are paranoid about tone suck, which you will get with even moderately sized pedal boards. So what else do you get with isolated power versus, say, the daisy chain? what type of noise would you come across? On some digital pedals, actually it's practically, I could say, most of them, most digital pedals, they have chatter. What that chatter is it's the processor that's inside there. When it talks, you might hear it. It sounds similar to, like, a cell phone, beep, 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 or it could be some other type of electronic sounding noise. And when you have isolated power, that isolates that digital pedal, so that chatter will only talk amongst itself, and it's usually silent because digital is silent. So it doesn't affect the other pedals in the chain, and it won't, the ground of that chatter won't affect itself because it's isolated. So then think of it, if you have 3 or 4 digital pedals in the chain, that chatter can get pretty loud if you have a one spot. And so that is something to look out for, and that's why isolated power is better. Okay, so this is with the one spot. Just want to show the plug. So that's the one spot. Here is, hear that noise, right? Okay, and here is the Caline power with the isolated power. Hear that difference? No more. So that's great, huh? So that's why, I mean, if you obsess about tone, if you obsess about the chain, this is the way to go. The Caline power is, for the isolated outputs, it is kind of expensive, relatively, because Caline is cheaper than the other brands, but it does the same job. If you only need a few, there is a cheaper version called the D5 or the P5, still by Caline, and so now you see it's best to hear this. I can talk for a long time, but you could hear the difference, and I'm not, that is on. Listen. As a loud as amp. And it is silent. So good job, Caline. I love this company. I bought everything. I actually, in Nam about 3 years ago, I visited their booth. I loved their effects pedal so much that, let me turn this down. I love their effects pedal so much that I actually just said, hey, I want to buy all of them, and I give them like $600, and they sent me all of their pedals and all of their power supplies. I didn't even want the power supplies until I tried them out, and this in particular, this is amazing. The portable power. I'll get back to that later on, but yeah, Caline are very handy, and they also have the tuner power, which I use these things daily, because look, see these pedals here. These are all my Caline babies. So yeah, I need these, and I use them all equally. Like for instances now where I had the digital pedals mixed in with regular pedal, it's usually the digital ones that give you that type of chatter, and what that is I think it's the clock of the processor chattering, and that's what bad power amplifies. And but this tuner power it's great because it powers all of your pedals. There's about 8 outputs on this thing. See them? Isn't that great? It powers all of your pedals, and it's a tuner as well. So it's not switched on yet, but that's my Caline. There's also, if you just want a regular cheap power supply, they do, like $25 power supplies as well, with like 8 or 10 outputs. That's just for regular, power. If you're not obsessing about this type of thing, you can get a good cheap Caline product. So it doesn't affect the other pedals in the chain, and it won't, the ground of that chatter won't affect itself because it's isolated. So then think of it, if you have 3 or 4 digital pedals in the chain, that chatter can get pretty loud if you have a one spot. And so that is something to look out for, and that's why isolated power is better. And basically, there's also the thing to think about. Speaking of isolation, there is another type of power supply that you can get, which is the best isolation of them all, a battery. There are Caline, who I adore, have something called the Pedal Power. That is just like having a 9-volt for every single pedal. You're not even attached to the wall, because this thing will if you charge this once, it will last a month tour on one charge. I use this, I've had this for about 3 years. I've probably charged it, no joke, 3 times. I switch it off obviously in between not using it, but this thing lasts an incredible amount of time. I've tried the other one, I can't remember the make of it, not Pedal Train, it might be Pedal Train. That thing was a piece of crap and didn't last for anything, and the button stuck on it, it was just a junk. This thing, not cheap, but it's absolutely amazing, and I actually bought 2 of these. I bought 3 of them, I gave one to a friend. These things, think about it, you've got your pedal board, you know from experience what a pain it is to find power. Say if you're a singer, like me, you have the mic stand, you have the pedal board right at the bottom of the mic stand. How long is the power supply on the average one spot or whatever? 15 feet if you're lucky. Now, do you think that there's going to be a plug within 15 feet of you that you can, for power? No chance. You've got extensions, and then you have your own cables, you have stereo cables coming up there, you might have a MIDI cable, you might have this and that, and it's just a spaghetti junction. With this, underneath your pedal board, not plugged into anything, completely isolated, clean power, and it won't crap out on you. If, say for argument's sake, if you just forget for a month to charge the thing, and it goes out, the battery runs out, the lithium battery, you just plug in the power supply to it and it'll power as normal. So so it just acts then as a normal wall wart one. But yeah, so that's another option. Another option is, you go, speaking of batteries, I want to stay on the battery. So the good old-fashioned 9-volt battery, not very sexy, but it can be sexy. There is a technique where if you have a fuzz pedal or distortion pedal with a battery that's run down, and it's on its way out, but it still kind of powers, it creates a term called sag. That sag, it just sounds amazing. It sounds like the breakup. You know when you switch your amp off and it still plays the tube amp while it fades? It kind of sounds like that, but permanent. It's got that wonderful, breaky, messy, but it still just has some sort of musicality to it that you love. So you can actually get power supplies that you can set to mimic that sag. I actually just use old batteries. So yeah, so that's another thing to think about with your old batteries. Try that out. If you've got a fuzz pedal, it works. It ends up sounding similar to like White Stripes or Queen of the Stone Age. That type of fuzz effect you can get just from a dead battery. Not dead, but All right, getting carried away. I always forget to breathe when I start nerding out. Speaking of nerding out, something that you might not have thought about: rechargeable 9 volts. So if you have a small pedal board with with 1 or 2 pedals on it, and you just can't be bothered with the wall warts, and you're fed up of buying batteries because you always leave it on, don't you? I do all the time. And how many Duracell batteries have you run flat because you didn't unplug the pedal or whatever? Rechargeable. These chargeable batteries actually last longer than a regular Duracell. a tip to do though is to actually, when you do have the you can buy them in Walmart for like 20 bucks for the charger and a 9-volt. But what I suggest is with rechargeable batteries, don't keep on charging it. Don't get paranoid and keep charging it and thinking, because what's a good way of talking about it? Think of milk, old-fashioned milk before it's almost impossible to spoil these days. When you have milk, right? Think of the acid that's inside of the battery like milk. If you leave that, if the milk goes half full and you charge it, right? This is old milk at the bottom of it, right? If you keep on charging it, this old milk is going to curdle, right? And it's going to go hard. Something similar happens inside batteries. So it's better for all types of batteries, your cell phone or whatever, let that thing just run out, and then recharge it. You get more battery life out of it, and it'll be more dependable. If you keep on charging it, it could be a month old, but it'll still fail on you because of the internals of it. So breathe on. So that's another one. Another pedal power. This is Caline again. To try to help you guys out. This sounds like a sale. I don't get paid by them. I just love their products. They're so cheap. Affordable. They're not cheap because they're awesome. Tuner power. What does this do? This is obviously a tuner, but it has 8 power outputs on it, so it can power your entire pedal board. I've actually ran 10 pedals off this because another tip, which you might not know about, some pedals have an in and an output. So say my hardwire tuner, which is right down here, I plug obviously one into that, one to power it, and then the out, you just need an extra jumper obviously, of the tuner into another pedal. So if you have 2 pedals like that, with an input and an output, then you can get 10 pedals going on this bad boy. So that's awesome. It also has 2 500 milliamp outputs on it as well. So if you've got something that needs a bit more juice, then you can use that. Now, let's get even nerdier. The 500 output, right? Usually it's 200 for a regular pedal. But you can put a regular pedal on that 500 and you will get extra headroom. So what does that mean? People usually do that mod. They'll do you might get, I haven't actually tried it because my boosts are precious to me, my tube screamers, and they're expensive and they're vintage, and I don't want to risk it, even though it'll be fine on it. But apparently, maybe I should try that out. I'll do that video in the future where I'll see if the headroom aspect is true. I trust a few people online and they tend to say that it works. I'm not sure if it's going to be placebo, so I'll actually record it. Blind test, of course. Blind test for her pleasure. And then we can see what's up. Well, I won't use my tube screamer. I'll just use a different type of boost, a cheaper one, just to see if that actually shakes out. So, what other aspects can... Oh yeah, some pedals, they have ground lift. So, if you have a stereo setup, stereo amps, usually 90% of the time you're going to get buzz, you're going to get ground hum. And sometimes this doesn't actually do it. The trick for me, the Sans amp, it does have the ground thing, but it didn't actually work for me. What did work is Hum X. Hum X is just a plug that you plug a plug into, and what it does, if you run in stereo amps, this will 100%, I'm saying that now unless your house has really bad power, sort out your ground loop. Fantastic. I got two of these bad boys, and yeah. So what else can you run into apart from terrible? Don't use the one spots. They're good for cheap, and if you have analog pedals, maybe you can get away with it and it's quiet. But so let's see. Oh yeah, cables. some cables can, no matter how good a job you do, some cables, they're not going to be quite as well shielded as others, and especially in noisy areas. So if you have a lot of cables, people tend to make things very neat, so they put a snake of cables alongside each other. Just the proximity of cables side by side can cause issues with noise. You get chatter. So how do you get rid of that? If you ever find yourself in that situation, it's just one of the troubleshooting things that you can do. You actually cross the cables, like literally cross, because then you don't have the proximity going all the entire length of the cable. It's just chatting with each other, you know, because everything in the one cross section, so it's nothing. So that's another aspect to think about. Another one is, let me think. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers most of it. I think, yeah, the cable, obviously shielded cables help. Actually, shielded power supplies, believe it or not, can help. When I say power supply, I mean power cable. I'm insane, and I bought this. I got like 3 of them. Evidence the source. Don't look up how expensive it is. I don't want to be ashamed on camera, but because it's me, I do not buy these things for the regular price. I tend to, you know, really get these things cheap because I just wait. And right now my phone's about to buzz because eBay's going to tell me there's some tasty morsels up for grabs. And my golden rule is only buy it used if you can sell it for more, and then it's just money in the bank. Where was I going with that? The power. There's, yeah, what causes all the issues that we have with the pedals? It's pretty much ground. There's so much complicated stuff that goes on with ground. It's mind-boggling. Like I already said, the processor, you know, just the chatter from that can affect other pedals. But what actually affects pedals, if you have 2 different types of brands, the ground, the voltage could be different on the grounds between the two pedals. So the internal voltage of the ground is different. That is enough to give you chatter and noise. So it's like you're up against it. So my advice, try one of these. See if contact Caline, or you know, whatever brand you like. If you're loyal to a brand, go for those guys. And these are great. And I'm going to show you a video. Here is. Hear that noise, right? Hear that difference? No more. There's other things to consider when you power everything, literally. So you have, say, a studio, right? You've got a project studio, or you have a room where you have a lot of musical equipment. You want to plug all that into, I know it doesn't sound ideal, but you want to plug all that into one outlet. Why? Because if you have, if you plug into different outlets, there is a lot of stuff that can go wrong. I mean, we've already discussed, you know, the amount of things that can go wrong with the ground, which is our enemy. I don't know why we haven't figured out a way more stable way to get away around ground. I mean, isolation should be built into practically everything, but it's not, and it's backwards. And I've actually been thinking about going into business. I've actually been thinking pretty, because I think I got enough experience, not so much know-how, but I have enough experience to invent things and bring out things, everything from the harness to you know, the internal harness, to the cable, to the solder. Every aspect of it is important. But that's, I don't want to get sidetracked, but yeah, I was thinking of bringing out like putting some money into it, you know, risking everything, who knows. Yeah, this time next year it'll be a big camera of me with a crate amp in the background, just me and my shipwreck left with a 1x12 with a 1x8. Alright, back on track. Power. Yeah, so everything on one outlet is ideal. Obviously if you have 8 amps and the rest of it, then it's not feasible. But try and get a decent decent power supply for, you know, that everything's going to plug into, obviously, and get something that has that can take, say if you have a lightning strike or whatever, make sure that it can take that, because you can get things really cheap for that can take a ridiculous amount of spikes. And yeah, so obviously I love all these things. I love the Caline stuff. Obviously, if you want to stay loyal to your brands and everything, they obviously probably have isolated power out as well. But if you want something tried and tested by probably the most obsessive guy, you know, in guitar land, then you can trust me that Caline is good stuff. So that's it. If you liked what you heard, if it was handy information, I don't have hardly any subscribers. You guys have been subscribing recently, so that's fantastic. But still, I practically have as many videos uploaded as I do have subscribers. So yeah, please hit like, please subscribe. Tell me about your things that have worked for you when it comes to you know, noise and pedals. There's one thing I didn't mention, which is where you lift the ground on one of the, say if you have stereo amps and you lift the ground on, say, 1 amp, and that gets rid of your buzz. Don't do that. I didn't want to even talk about that, because you will die. It's a matter of time before you die. That's kind of, it's not. I just want to emphasize how bad it is. So yeah, like, please subscribe and hit that bell if you want a notification when I upload stuff. There's a bell icon, and you click on that, and you'll hear my red-faced ramblings. Again, I've been Owen with Circle of Tone, and have a good one.